The Thanksgiving dinner was in full swing, the air thick with the smell of roasted turkey and the chatter of family members catching up. The Sinclair family had gathered around the long, polished dining table, the kind of table where the generations came together to celebrate the day. There was laughter, clinking glasses, and the familiar warmth of tradition. But for Emma Sinclair, the youngest of the three children, it felt more like a show, a performance in which she was cast as an invisible character. Her older sister, Olivia, sat beside her, glowing in the attention. As the gifts were handed out, Olivia received everything anyone could ever want: an elegant set of diamond earrings from their mother, a new iPhone from their father, a generous check from their aunt. The smiles were wide, the claps were loud, and Olivia basked in it all. Emma, meanwhile, watched silently, trying to push the tightness in her chest aside. She was used to this feeling, the quiet sting of being overlooked, but this Thanksgiving, the familiar ache was sharper than before. When it was her turn, Emma barely looked at the small, folded dollar bill placed delicately on her plate. Her gift was $1, a single lonely bill, not even a gift card. It wasn't much, not in any monetary sense, but it carried more weight than any amount of cash could. It was a glaring symbol of the way her family had always seen her, a mere afterthought, someone who was never quite enough. Her heart sank, but she kept her face neutral, careful not to let the tears prickle at her eyes. No one seemed to notice. No one seemed to care. Olivia was still laughing, surrounded by family, basking in the spotlight, her eyes flicking over to Emma for a moment before she resumed her conversation with their mother. Emma's gaze drifted across the room, and her fingers tightened around the edge of her napkin. She couldn't hold it in any more. "Mom, don't you know?" Emma's voice broke through the clamor, quiet but forceful, the words hanging in the air like a shot fired in the middle of a calm sea. The room fell silent. Conversation stopped. Laughter faded. Emma's mother, who had been engrossed in a conversation with their father, froze. The flicker of a guilty expression crossed her face before she masked it with a tight smile. There was a long pause. "You're right, Emma. I should have." Her mother started to speak, but Emma cut her off. "No, it's fine," Emma said, her voice cool but the tremor barely hidden. "It's not about the dollar. It's about you not knowing. You never do." The words hung in the air, sharper than any knife on the table. The family's gaze shifted between Emma and their mother, but no one spoke. They all knew the tension had been building for years. Emma had always been the invisible one, the one who never quite fit into the perfect mold of what the family expected, the one who didn't receive the same love or attention as Olivia. The silence in the room thickened. Later, after the dinner had ended and the family had dispersed, Emma found herself face to face with Olivia in the hallway. Olivia had an amused expression on her face, one that didn't seem entirely sincere. "What was that all about?" Olivia asked, her tone light, as though Emma's outburst had been some trivial matter. Emma's heart raced, but she kept her voice steady. "You know what it's about. The gifts, the favoritism, the way Mom only sees you." Olivia raised an eyebrow. "Emma, you know it's just family dynamics. You know how it is." Emma's chest tightened as Olivia continued to speak, justifying the imbalance with empty words. She wasn't just receiving preferential treatment. She was actively manipulating their mother's affection to keep herself in the spotlight. Olivia had always known how to get what she wanted, using charm, tears, and sometimes guilt to maintain her position. It was no accident. "You don't see it, do you?" Emma said, her voice low but heavy with realization. "You've been doing this your whole life, controlling things without anyone even noticing." Olivia's smile faltered for a moment, but she quickly regained composure. "Don't get so worked up. You've always been the dramatic one. Mom loves us both, okay? Just relax." But Emma wasn't relaxed. She could feel the rage starting to build, but more than that, she could feel the awareness settling in her gut like a stone. Olivia had played her part so well that even Emma herself hadn't realized just how far things had gone. Emma had been the puppet in her sister's game, unknowingly allowing her to pull the strings while everyone else cheered her on. Olivia might be the golden child, but Emma wasn't going to let that continue anymore. The next morning, as Emma walked through the family home, she found herself drawn to a small drawer in her mother's desk, an old oak piece, worn from years of use. She had never been one to snoop, but something about the tension between her and her family, the things left unsaid, urged her to look. With trembling hands, she opened the drawer. Inside, there was an envelope, thick with papers. Emma's fingers hesitated for a moment, a strange sense of dread crawling up her spine, but she pushed it aside. She opened the envelope and pulled out a set of financial documents. Her eyes scanned the papers, disbelief washing over her as she pieced it together. There were statements, transactions, and ledgers. The documents confirmed what she had suspected all along. She had been robbed. The family's wealth, the money they were supposed to share, had been kept from her. Olivia and their mother had been diverting large sums of money into accounts Emma wasn't aware of, hiding it from her, keeping her in the dark while they lived in luxury. A sick feeling rose in her stomach, but it wasn't just about the money. It was the lies, the betrayal, the way they had all conspired to keep her in the dark for so long. Emma didn't know what to feel first. Outraged? Sad? Confused? The only thing she knew for certain was that this would no longer stand. Her family had kept her down for too long, and now she was going to find the truth. All of it. She stared at the documents in her hands, her heart pounding with a mix of disbelief and determination. This was the beginning of something bigger than a Thanksgiving dinner gone wrong. This was the beginning of a fight for her inheritance and for her dignity. The morning after Thanksgiving, Emma's mind was still reeling from the dinner. The image of Olivia surrounded by lavish gifts, her own solitary dollar bill still fresh in her mind. She had kept her composure, but inside, everything was unraveling. The betrayal, the favoring, the endless years of being pushed to the sidelines in her own family. It had all come to a head last night, and Emma knew it was time to confront the source of it all, her mother. She had spent the night pacing, her thoughts a tangled mess of anger and confusion. She couldn't ignore it anymore. The financial documents she had found, the hidden will, it all pointed to one undeniable truth. Her mother had been complicit in this. Complicit in keeping her down, in making her feel invisible. It was time to face it. As she walked through the family house, she found her mother in the living room, flipping through a magazine, pretending everything was normal. Emma paused for a moment, feeling a surge of dread, but she pushed it aside. She wasn't here to play games anymore. She had to face the truth, no matter how painful it would be. "Mom," Emma said, her voice steady but sharp. "We need to talk." Her mother looked up, a flicker of unease crossing her features before she masked it with a forced smile. "What's the matter, darling?" Emma took a breath and sat down across from her. "I know what you've been doing. The way you've been treating Olivia differently, the way you've been hiding things from me." Her mother's face shifted slightly, the smile faltering. "I don't know what you mean." "Stop pretending," Emma shot back, her voice growing more forceful. "You've been giving Olivia everything, and I've gotten nothing. You've kept me out of the loop, out of the will, out of the family decisions." Her mother stiffened, her eyes narrowing defensively. "I do what's best for this family, Emma. You wouldn't understand. It's not about favoritism. It's about what's best for each of you." Emma laughed bitterly, shaking her head. "You're lying to me. You've always favored Olivia. You've never even tried to hide it." The silence stretched between them. Emma could feel her heart pounding, the rage simmering beneath her skin. Her mother wasn't even sorry. She wasn't even acknowledging the pain Emma had carried for years. "You've made it clear," Emma continued, her voice quieter now, but no less firm. "You've always chosen Olivia, and I've always been the one left out." Her mother opened her mouth, then closed it again, clearly unsure of what to say. Emma didn't give her the chance to defend herself. "I'm done being quiet," Emma said, standing up. "I'm done letting you get away with this. I want answers. And if you can't give them to me, I'll find them myself." As she walked out of the room, she felt a strange sense of relief. The confrontation hadn't gone as she expected. Her mother hadn't broken down or apologized, but Emma knew this was just the beginning. She wasn't going to back down now, not when she had finally found the courage to speak up. Later that night, Emma went home, her mind still buzzing with the weight of the conversation. She couldn't let it end there. She needed more answers. And so, as soon as she stepped into the quiet solitude of her apartment, she sat down at her desk and began sifting through the documents she had found earlier. The pile of papers felt heavier now. Each sheet of paper seemed to carry more weight than it had before. She could feel the eyes of her family watching her from every corner of the room, their silent judgment pressing down on her. And then she found it, a document tucked deep in the stack. At first glance, it looked like just another financial statement, but as she flipped through it, something caught her eye. The will. Her mother had hidden a new will, one that Emma had never seen before. Her breath caught in her throat as she skimmed the details. Olivia's inheritance was twice the size of Emma's. Not only that, but Emma's share of the family wealth had been drastically reduced, or completely removed. The document was damning. It was proof of everything Emma had suspected. Her family had been playing her for a fool. And Olivia, she had been the orchestrator of it all, manipulating their mother and ensuring that Emma got nothing. Emma's hand trembled as she put the document down, her mind reeling. The unfairness stung more now that she had the proof in front of her. She wasn't just being treated unfairly. Her birthright had been stolen from her. And Olivia, with her sweet smile and perfect life, had been the one to take it. But it wasn't over. Emma was done being passive. She was done letting her family decide her fate for her. With a sharp intake of breath, Emma reached for her phone and called the one person she knew she could trust, Daniel Harris. He was a lawyer and a longtime friend of the family, someone who had always been on her side. Emma had never wanted to drag her family into courts, but this was different. This was about something bigger than just a disagreement over money. This was about taking back what was rightfully hers. When Daniel picked up, she didn't waste time with pleasantries. "Daniel, I need your help. I've got the proof, and I need to take legal action against my family." Daniel's voice was calm, but she could hear the concern in his tone. "What happened, Emma?" Emma exhaled slowly. "It's worse than I thought. They've been hiding money from me, manipulating me, and now I've found, well, that cuts me out completely. Olivia's getting everything." There was a pause on the other end. "Emma, are you sure about this? You need to be prepared for what's coming." "I'm ready," she said, her voice steady with resolve. "I won't let them get away with it. I'll take this as far as I have to." She hung up the phone and stared at the document again. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about justice. It was about making sure that her family would finally have to face the consequences of their actions. Just as Emma started to gather her thoughts, there was a knock at the door. She froze for a moment, her heart pounding in her chest. She wasn't expecting anyone. When she opened the door, standing in front of her was Claire Walsh, her mother's old friend. Emma had not heard from Claire in years, and she had no idea why she was here. "I need to talk to you," Claire said, her voice low and urgent. "It's about your family. I have information you need." Claire stepped inside, her face serious. Emma felt a mixture of surprise and unease. What could Claire possibly know that would help her now? "I've been keeping quiet for too long," Claire continued, her eyes darting nervously. "I saw what happened. I saw Olivia and your mother tampering with inheritance documents. They've been hiding things from you, Emma. I know what's been going on." Emma's heart raced. This was it, the break she had been waiting for. Claire had the information she needed. Emma had the proof, and now she had a witness. Together, they would expose the truth. But as Emma listened to Claire's revelation, A strange feeling lingered in her chest. Grateful, yes, but also conflicted. Claire had kept silent for so long. Was Emma supposed to trust her now? With Claire's testimony, Emma's path forward seemed clearer. She had the evidence. She had the ally. Now, all she had to do was fight. The courthouse was a sea of gray. The solemn atmosphere hung in the air, suffocating yet steady, as if the weight of the past had finally caught up with all of them. Emma sat in the front row, the seat closest to the judge's bench. Her lawyer, Daniel Harris, sat beside her, a reassuring presence. He glanced at her, his face steady, but Emma could feel the tension in his posture. Today, everything would change. Emma's hands were steady as she gripped the folder of evidence in front of her, her breath shallow but controlled. This was it, the moment she had been preparing for. The moment that would decide whether she would reclaim her birthright or be silenced forever by the family who had always kept her in the shadows. The case was moving forward. Olivia and their mother were already seated across the room, their faces calm but tinged with an undeniable edge of anxiety. Olivia, ever composed, had perfected the art of appearing flawless. Emma couldn't help but resent how easily she played the role of the victim in front of their mother, all while pulling the strings behind the scenes. Daniel leaned in closer, his voice low. "This is it, Emma. Stay focused. We've got this." Emma nodded, her mind racing. She knew the courtroom would be intense. Her mother and Olivia had played their parts so well, each one with their own defense. Her mother's emotional pleas, Olivia's calculated words. But Emma had something they didn't. Truth. As the judge called the session to order, the first wave of tension surged through Emma. The opposing counsel began their arguments, emphasizing how Emma was nothing but a disgruntled daughter looking for attention. It felt like a punch to the gut, but Emma refused to let it show. Her eyes narrowed, her gaze never leaving Olivia, whose posture remained regal, as if untouched by the chaos unfolding around her. Then it was their turn. Daniel stood, and the courtroom fell silent. "Your Honor," Daniel began, "we are here today because a family has wronged its own. My client, Emma Sinclair, is not just fighting for her inheritance. She's fighting for the truth to be revealed. Her mother and sister have manipulated the very foundation of this family, lying to Emma for years. The evidence before you today proves that." Daniel's words were sharp, calculated. Emma watched as the judge took note, his pen moving slowly across the paper. The weight of the truth settled in the room. But just as Emma thought they had gained a firm grasp on the case, the tide shifted. Olivia's lawyer stood up, presenting a new document, a will forged but convincingly altered to discredit Emma's claims. Emma's heart skipped a beat as she saw the fraudulent paper placed on the table. Her mother's name was signed at the bottom, and the terms were clear. Emma's inheritance had been drastically reduced, and Olivia's share had been expanded. It was a deliberate attack aimed directly at her. The courtroom erupted in murmurs as Olivia's lawyer spoke up, asserting that Emma had fabricated the entire claim, and this forged was evidence of her deceit. Emma froze for a moment, her stomach twisting. The anger that had been simmering inside her boiled over. But she didn't react. Not yet. She met Daniel's eyes, and in that moment he understood. They had anticipated this. The document was a lie. They had been prepared for this very move. Emma's voice was calm, but filled with quiet fury as she stood up. "This document is a lie. I have evidence of its forgery." Daniel quickly followed suit, leading the investigation into the forged document. Within moments, they identified discrepancies, misspelled names, a font that didn't match the rest of the document, and signs that the signature was forged. Emma knew this was a game changer. Olivia and her mother had overplayed their hand. The courtroom quieted once again, the atmosphere thick with anticipation. Emma's team worked swiftly to present their findings. The weight of the forged evidence now hung heavily in the air, but Emma wasn't afraid. The truth would win, she knew it. And just as the case seemed to be shifting in Emma's favor, the final twist came. one she never expected. Claire Walsh, a former family friend, walked into the courtroom. She wasn't expected, and her presence caught everyone off guard. She approached the witness stand, her eyes scanning the room before locking onto Emma. There was a flicker of recognition, of shared understanding, and Emma's heart raced. "Your Honor," Claire began, her voice firm but trembling slightly. "I'm here to testify. I've seen what Olivia and her mother have done. I was there when they altered the will. I was there when they made sure Emma was left out of the inheritance." The words hung in the air, every eye in the room now fixed on Claire. Emma could feel the room shift as the truth began to unravel. Her heart pounded in her chest as Claire continued. "I saw them change the documents, and I know they've been funneling money to keep Emma from getting her rightful share," Claire continued. "I've been silent for far too long, but today I can't stay quiet anymore." Emma felt a surge of relief. The truth was out. Her heart swelled with a mix of triumph and sorrow. She had fought for this moment, and it was finally here. But as she looked at her mother's face, her eyes wide with disbelief, the woman who had raised her, the woman who had betrayed her, she couldn't help but feel the sting of the finality of it all. The judge listened to Claire's testimony, and the courtroom was silent as he absorbed the weight of the revelation. Emma's hands were clenched in fists, her body tight with anticipation. Minutes later, the judge delivered his verdict. "In light of the evidence presented and the testimony given, I rule in favor of the plaintiff, Emma Sinclair. The will, as presented by the defendant, is deemed invalid. Emma Sinclair will receive her rightful inheritance, and the fraudulent actions of the defendant are hereby noted." Emma's heart leapt as the gavel slammed down. She had won, but the victory was bittersweet. The weight of the truth had been revealed, but the cost was heavy. Her family was shattered, and she could no longer pretend that it would ever be the same. As she stood up, her emotions were a whirlwind. She had reclaimed what was hers, but the woman who had been her mother was gone. The ties had been severed, and no amount of victory could undo the years of betrayal. Walking out of the courtroom, Emma didn't know where to go next. The world felt vast, and for the first time, it felt like she was truly free.